This episode of Places She Shapes is sponsored by JAC Project Management. Emma has built her career by stepping into challenges before she felt completely ready. From a girl designing Lego cruise ships to leading major London developments for BGO, she found her place in construction by trusting her gut, asking questions, and doing the preparation. In this episode, Emma talks about confidence, mentorship, women in development, and why sometimes the biggest career moves start with saying yes before you know exactly how. Hi Emma, welcome to Places She Shapes at Abbey Road Studios. Thank you for being here. You're principal at BGO. Can you tell me a bit about your role and what BGO do?
Sure. Thank you for having me, firstly. Really, really good to be here. I essentially development director at BGO. I manage the design and construction of our projects that are under development within central London.
Okay, great. And can you give me an example of a development that you've got going on at the moment?
So one of our key ones is 105 Victoria Street. It's a 500,000 square foot office development with quite a lot of retail at the ground floor as well, due to complete in the next couple of months. So super exciting. We've been working on it since 2022 on site. So that's, one of our flagship ones that's underway.
Fantastic, amazing. So I wanted to go back a little bit and understand what you were like as a little girl.
I think as a little girl, I think boyish is a good word. I was
Okay.
very much into playing Lego. I hate brushing my hair. I hated washing. um, and I think as I grew up and went to school and met my friends, that changed. But my kind of love for doing everything creative stayed. But yeah, it was. I had a good childhood with lots of holidays, lots of friendships. So it's really positive.
What form did your creativity take?
Um, Mostly Lego form, and strangely, my mum will always talk about this to anyone she speaks to. I think from it was a box set I got when it was one Christmas. I must have been maybe 11 or so, and I designed my own boat in this sketchbook that you came with the box set of crayons and pens, etc.
Yeah.
And it was like a 20-floor cruise liner with swimming pools, flumes, bedrooms, and obviously it would never been able to be built. But I spent hours and hours to the point I actually took it to my university application interviews because I thought it was a good kind of show of how that I've been thinking about doing what I
Yeah.
was looking to do for a very long time. So yeah.
Amazing. So how did you decide what you wanted to do? What if I'd asked you back then what you were going to do for a living, what would you have said?
Um, I think I first wanted to be a vet because I love animals. And then I realised actually, if you love animals, it's probably not the best job to do because it's quite sad. I then I remember at school, I went to an all-girls grammar school. There was quite a lot of pressure in terms of you must get the grades and you must deliver. And my sister was actually the head girl when I was there. So equally following her steps. And we did one of those I don't know what they're called now, the things that tells you what you should do.
Oh, yeah. No.
And I think it said something like a teacher or working with people. And I started to think that I knew then that teacher wasn't right and they'd got it wrong. I had quite a strong mind even from that age. But as I moved through secondary school and realised that the more academic kind of maths, science, although I enjoyed them, I wasn't very good at them. And the creative, like the arts, the learning about geography, history, that type of those subjects really kind of sat better with me. The design, the technical subjects, and I think we had I remember sitting down with the what do they call them? The careers advisors, and she said, well, "What were you thinking?" I said, "I really like buildings. I'd love to be involved in when you're going to London. I see all these big. I'd love to be able to be involved." I said, "But I don't know how you do that." She was like, "Oh, you need to be an architect," and that was it. And I remember her saying, "You need to be an architect." I remember her writing it down as to say, right, and like kind of like that's the record of our discussion. And because I wasn't really told anything else, that was what I then applied to do and went to university to do.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you were quite lucky that you got that advice because I think quite often when people talk about buildings, they think about bricklayers, and that's kind of as far as it goes. And the number of um, work streams that there are involved in buildings is quite big. And I suppose architect perhaps was a good foundation, even if you've not ended up being an architect.
Yeah, and certainly, I know a lot of my friends have said that the career aspirations for the school were high, so I think that they would probably never have gone to a labour type level of advice. But it was very one track. Go and do architecture, and actually, in hindsight, I probably should have done my own research, and I probably should have looked into it a bit more. But equally, it felt like the right path for me at that time.
Yeah. Can we talk a bit about going to an all-girls school and how you found that?
I loved it. I was really lucky that I fell into an amazing group of friends. From like, my best friend now is my best friend who I met my first day at school. And yeah, of course, not having boys there at that time felt like we were losing out, but we found ways around that and still kind of went out and had a good time and met kind of the wider group outside of that school. But I really enjoyed it, and actually, I'm lucky that my friends have all been quite successful as well. And I think that comes out the fact that at school we all were of the mindset that, yes, we can have fun and do what we do outside, but at school we're going to work hard and get the good grades. And I think that's paid off for all of us looking back now.
Yeah, I also went to an all-girls school, so I'm always interested in it. And I think from my point of view, I never felt like there wasn't anything that I could do, because there was nobody to say that you couldn't.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Agreed. Yeah, that it felt like you were being really pushed to achieve whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And we also had a queen and a female prime minister when I was at school. So it's like, and I had very strong role models in my mother and my grandmother. It just never occurred to me that I couldn't be anything that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was, but it never really occurred to me until I probably got into the work environment, and then it slightly changed perhaps. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting when I look back is when I speak to other people about their school life, we didn't do food tech. We didn't do some of the subjects that actually people think you probably would do at a girls' school. And I don't even think that was on offer. So actually I came out of that thinking that I was going to go into this world and it was going to be very much the same as what I'd done. But as you said, it was quite the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. So you went off to do architecture and you went to Liverpool?
Yes. Yep. The University of Liverpool, 3 years. The plan was to do the full 7-year degree, but I think I realised, I don't think it was day 2, maybe day 3, where we went into one of the presentation rooms, and it was a really quick and study on something at the time, and everyone had to present. And there were 120 people in our year, and I put my presentation up on the wall, and I was like, oh God, this is bad. Like, I am in the bottom 10% of what I can. I just standing there looking at everyone's ideas. I was like, and that's always been one of my problems. I'm not very good at conveying an idea onto paper, or necessarily showing it in the best way that I kind of want to. And I knew at that point, I was like, I'm not going to do well at this. So I need to get this done and try and do as well as I can, but move into something. So I knew really early on that it wasn't necessarily my path to go, because there was just so many amazing people in my year at the time. And I knew architecture, having done a bit more research before I went to uni, was going to be tough in terms of coming out of uni and then making it in the kind of real world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very evident very early that I wasn't going to be the best. And I very much am one of those people that have to be the best at what I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
So realising early on into a 3-year course, let's say, that's a long slog after that. Did you think about doing something else?
No, I think I just saw it as a challenge of get it done, and enjoy as much as you can, knowing that you're not the best one out of the 120. But it was an experience that still showed me a lot of skills I use now, and I knew that it was still going to give. I just knew that that was not going to be my career.
Yeah. So you finished at Liverpool. Then what did you do next?
So whilst I was at Liverpool, during one of the summers, I think it was my last summer, I did a work experience through one of my mum's friends, who worked for a developer, and I think it was 4 or 5 weeks with them. During that time, they were developing a brewery in Bristol, and it was being managed by Mace. And so for the first time, I went into a live kind of project environment, and I went into this meeting with these two Mace project managers, and there was about 20 people sitting around the table. It was quite a big development. It was a good kind of maybe $500 million, like proper infrastructure master plan scheme. And I remember thinking, who are all these people? What are they doing? Because even though I'd been on my degree, people didn't really talk about what it took to build the building. It was all very much about how you design. And afterwards, I came out of the meeting and I said, "Oh, can I have half an hour of your time?" to the PMs, and said, "Who is like?" I kind of lots of people having different comments about stuff, and they explained to me that there was a cost consultant, an engineer for this, an engineer for that, a town planner, all these different people, and I was like, I just didn't realise those roles existed. And it was after that the rest of that kind of internship that I did, I saw the different roles and really came to the conclusion that I think as a career I wanted to be able to do the kind of the PM role of overseeing all of it. And I just didn't know that existed. So when I left uni, I tied in with the Mace team that I'd met during that internship and managed to get on the graduate scheme there.
And what's the graduate scheme look like at Mace?
It was a 3-year scheme. So you join as an assistant PM, and I think there were about 25 of us on the scheme, it was amazing at the time because there were some of us on the PM side, some people on the cost side, some doing design, some on the contracting side, because that was back when Mace were Como, and I can't even remember what the large one, but it was contracting as well. And it was a monthly training session. It was doing some of the CIOB, RICS kind of accreditation things. It was learning on the job, but with like mentors in place. So it was a very structured process, and I loved it because actually there was even the process of getting onto the scheme, and I think I did about 6 interviews with different people, and a training day where you were put with some other interviewees and watched to see how you worked with them. But that 3 years was a great introduction to the industry, to Mace, people who were at the same age and career point, but also in slightly different roles. And some of those people are actually still kind of good friends today, who I met on the grad scheme.
So you do, it's quite a planned 3 years then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happens at the end of the 3 years?
In theory, that's when you get promoted to project manager.
Yeah.
And what actually happened is, I think 2 years into the grad scheme, I was working on a scheme down in Bognor Regis, very glamorous school, but one of the biggest school developments, I think, south of the UK that had been done. And unfortunately, the senior PM who was running it became very ill, and my director at the time said, "Look, we don't really want to replace him. Like, do you think you could step up?" And I was like, I remember at the time thinking, God, this is a challenge, but do I say no, or do I just see what can happen? I was lucky. The contractor on the project was really good. There was a separate team of professionals who had all been really supportive to date on the project. So I said to my director, let's do it. And if I need your help, and he was like, I can jump in more than I would normally. So I just went kind of straight in and started running it myself, not really knowing what I was doing apart from what I'd kind of learnt so far. Did a lot more learning kind of aside to the work to try and make sure I didn't come across too inexperienced. But at the same time, I was 23. So going into meetings with mostly male contractors and design members and trying to pretend that I knew what I was doing. But as I said, I was lucky with the team that I was put, or the team that was working on the project, and it went really well.
Yeah. And what did stepping up teach you, do you think?
It taught me that I think if you put your mind to something, anything's possible, and that hard work does pay off. Because I used to travel down there on, say, a Monday early morning, and then travel back late on a Thursday. I'd do nights down there, and I would be working till like 1, 2 in the morning sometime, and then big heading up the next day, going into the office like in Chichester where the client's base was, and just really long hours. But because I wanted to read every email, I wanted to read every document, I'd learn and just make sure I was on top of everything. And I think that's what it showed you, that if you actually put your mind to something, it will get you further.
Yeah. So how did you learn? You mentioned that word a couple of times. Was that talking to the wider consultant team, talking to people, or your own kind of research?
I probably a mix of everything. As I said before, really good people on the project, so a lot of questions to them outside of meetings, and can I borrow you for 5 minutes just to understand what you said there, and those kind of conversations.
Mm.
The kind of management in Mace were there when I needed them, so there was a bit of that, and I was lucky that I was still in the graduate scheme, so I was also had people at my level on the contractor side, cost side, who I could pick up the phone and say, someone's just mentioned this and I've got no idea. And because they were the same level as me,
Yeah.
but knew more about that subject, I could ask them. So
That's helpful.
it was very helpful.
Yeah. So knowing who to pick up the phone to,
Yeah.
having that network.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. What do you think that director saw in you to go, actually, Emma can step into that role?
I think it's that passion for what I was doing, the drive that I wanted to. I'd said from like day one that this is my kind of career path. This is what I want to do. And he said to me at the time, like, you feel like you know what you want. I said, I kind of spent 3 years at uni doing something that I knew wasn't. So I'm now really clear what I want to do.
Yes.
So he knew that, and I think I was lucky that the person who'd gone off ill had been very supportive of me and had been like very positive about the job I'd done so far. So that helped. But I think it's the drive that I think if he knew anyone could do it out of the team he could have picked, it would have been me. And I knew the project. I'd spent a lot of time, my kind of time on the grad scheme, working there. So
Yeah.
it paid off.
I wonder if you hadn't done architecture, if it would have taken you longer to find the thing that you wanted to do. Does that make sense?
I think it would have done, yeah.
Because you knew on like week 2 that this is not the thing. So maybe it made you look for the thing sooner than perhaps most people that are going through university, you wait till the end of year 3 and then you go, right, now what am I going to do? But because you knew quite early on. What do you think?
I agree. I think that from that first point, I think I spent the rest of my degree almost thinking like, what are my options? And as soon as I did that work experience or the internship, I was like, this is, and it felt like it just fallen into place.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worked well in that sense.
And is it creative enough? Creative enough that we're going back to the Lego thing? And does it scratch that itch enough? What you're doing?
100%. More so the last 5 years where I've been at BGO than probably the time before that.
Yeah.
And purely because even though I'm now client side and I've got great architects and designers and contractors delivering our projects for us, much to their frustration, I am very much still in the driving seat and would like to make the decisions around materials and colours, and it's great because I can now do it and just talk about what I'd like to see, or what, if they present something, how I see it working without having to try and draw it.
Yeah. So let's go back to Mace. So you delivered the school project.
Yes.
Then what happened?
And that finished on time, on budget. So again, massive. I mean, that just trying to do that in the industry alone is hard. So that was all good. And then my director said to me, right, you've done public sector for 3 years now. Do you want to? We think you'd be a really good fit moving private into the private sector and doing a job for one of our banking clients. And I said, okay, well, like, where is it? And they said, oh, it's a company called Goldman Sachs. Have you heard of them? And I said, no. Obviously, this is 24-year-old me. And I was like, no, not heard of them. And he said, well, they got a existing portfolio of some buildings in London. We've got some work with them. It's a lot of kind of sort of boiler replacement here, a fit out here, scheme of projects that we think you'd be kind of good. So went and did that for, I think I did 4 years as a PM, but at Goldman's, doing various different projects from multi-million-pound trading floor fit outs to, doing a switch over a weekend of pumps and stuff that could only be done on weekends. And it's actually a funny story. This is how critical, and I didn't really realise businesses at that age work to that level of scrutiny, but we planned for 6 months to do some valve replacements on one of their critical systems, and it had to be done on this weekend because it's the only weekend that everything can be shut down in their main trading building. And lo and behold, it was due to snow. And then we've been planning all this time just to replace these valves, and it's obviously major works, contractors involved, designers involved. We get closer to the date, and they're like, the weather's due to be bad. Like, what are we going to do? We can't pull it. So going to town on the Thursday. It's all supposed to start on the Friday. It starts snowing. So on Friday morning, when the snow is, obviously in London, there's nothing, but everyone's coming from out in the sticks. Goldman's arranged for everyone who needed to be there that weekend to be picked up in Land Rovers. They were very fancy cars, because I was like, a cab would have been fine. But everyone was picked up in these Land Rovers and taxied in to make sure that we were all there and we could do the works that weekend. And I was like, these people mean business. Like, this is serious stuff. And that was in, I think, my first year there. And it makes your consideration for your job. I felt like I've got to do a really good job. This is really important stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was there for 4 years, and then started working on their plans for their new HQ. So this is back in 2013, and I was still working at Mace at that point. And unfortunately, there was a discussion around, do Mace potentially build it, or do we have Mace PMs involved if that's the case? And Goldman Sachs, quite rightly, made the decision that they couldn't have Mace as a contractor on the tender list if they had Mace project managers.
Yeah.
So the team, including myself, were asked to leave on the project management side to make way for the procurement of the contractor. And at that point, I went back onto the kind of bench at Mace and was twiddling my thumbs, did a bit of work at Barclays, but got asked by Tishman Speyer, who were the development managers for Goldman Sachs back then, whether I'd be interested in coming back to Goldman's to work on the HQ project with them. And for me, it was a no-brainer. So that was the move from Mace to Tishman Speyer.
Why was it a no-brainer? For season 3 of Places She Shapes, we're delighted to be supported by Cripps. Cripps is a top 100 UK law firm, working with businesses and individuals across corporate, real estate, litigation, and private client services. Cripps is passionate about solving problems, championing ambitions, making a positive, lasting difference, and is particularly proud to support female leaders, amplifying their stories to help drive meaningful change.
So that was the move from Mace to Tishman Speyer.
Why was it a no-brainer?
I think I'd spent at Goldman's doing 4 years. It was great going from public to private, learned a new set of kind of project skills. And Goldman Sachs team were fantastic. So I learned a lot through all the people that I worked with there. But I'd done a lot of kind of office fit out stuff, and it just didn't feel chunky enough for me, especially because in the public sector I'd been building schools, and yes, it's schools, but they were big buildings. So going to then fit out stuff, I just didn't enjoy it as much. And Mace's forecast was that I was likely to do more fit out stuff with them for another client.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like the right move. So moving to somewhere where I was going to be involved in a £1 billion development from demolition right through to the end felt like the right decision.
And how did Tishman's hear about you? How did that come about?
So they were in the office at Goldman Sachs. We all sat in kind of the same area. So them as development managers doing the main HQ project, and kind of the project managers who are running projects in the kind of rest of the estates. We all sat in the same space, and it's those after hours when everyone's still sitting there at 9 o'clock having their dinner by the desk trying to get stuff out.
Yeah.
You have those conversations, and there was one guy in particular at Tishman Speyer, and me and him got on really well, and I'd asked him about how it was going, and I could tell it was a really interesting project, and he was asking what we were up to, and he asked more and more questions that made me think, is he trying to tee me up for something here? But nothing really came of it until a few months later. But it was that interaction, I think, that they saw that, one, I knew Goldman's, which was a positive, and I think Goldman's saw again that I had that enthusiasm for what I did, and I'm quite a methodical person, quite organised, which works with Goldman's. They like to know where things
that.
are.
Yeah.
So Tishman, I think, saw that ability to bring me, knowing that I'd been taken away from the account, but being able to bring me back as a positive.
Yeah. So having those kind of wider conversations, those offline ones over a pizza, they sometimes pay off, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. Because I think even then I was probably expressing that I had frustrations at Mace about the reason I joined Mace was to. At that time, Mace, you could have gone international, you could have gone contracting, and what's really good about Mace is that when you're in your role, which was project management, they really look after you and manage you really well. But what they don't like doing is then, if they think you're good, share you with anyone else in the team. Because for them, it's a loss if you move to contracting or international.
Sure.
And yes, sometimes it happens, but I struggle to find that move within Mace. And I think I expressed that at the time, and that's why I think Tishman knew that jump to something completely different would be a yes.
So what did that new role look like then?
So when I moved across, I essentially ran the demolition process. So I handed the keys from Goldman's to the demolition contractor, and they were on site for 2.5 years doing demolition and reduced level dig and the amount of groundworks we had there. And so I ran that process, and then also ran the procurement of the main contractor for the main works. And then saw it right through to being able to hand the keys back from what was the time Multiplex to Goldman's. So I 7 years on that project, and I saw it from start of demo to PC. And yes, it was a very busy and stressful project, but it was an amazing experience, and I've learned so much from that.
So was that all the way through to the completion of the fit out as well? Was that included?
No, so that sat separately outside of, we were like shell and core delivery. I mean, there was a whole host of different architects who were involved in the interior spaces, but there was a lot of interfaces in relation with them too. So it was a multi kind of faceted role in that sense. One minute you're talking to the City of London about what you could and couldn't do in the public realm, then you were talking to Multiplex about where they were, Goldman's about changes because they had some moves and people in their teams that needed to flex the space. So it was a really interesting, you just didn't know which day would bring, which in sometimes that's quite scary because I quite like the orderly nature of going to work, but actually it means your days are more exciting because you have new challenges you weren't aware of and more things to think about.
So that's a long project. What did that project teach you, do you think?
Definitely the benefit of having a good team, like the team at Tishman Speyer. I think there were 11 of us at our biggest. We worked so well together to get that delivered. And I think the importance of communication, being I mean, I'm an organised person, but I probably was even more so on that project because I felt like I couldn't miss anything. And quality, I think Goldman's really pushed for that, quite rightly, obviously being their new HQ. And that kind of the people I was working with and the design of that building meant that was really, really important. But yeah, I probably put a lot of my lessons that I kind of work to every day at the moment on that job in terms of things like stemming from whether it be things that didn't go so well, but also things that went well.
Yeah. Were there any particular people there that helped you, mentored you, encouraged you?
There's probably who is actually my boss now. He was my boss then, but Alexander, so when I first met him, when I was still at Mace and he was at Tishman Speyer, and as I said, we worked in the same office space. He turned up in his pinstripe suit, and I thought, and he had this air of I'm the boss, and I thought at the time, he comes across as a bit arrogant, and he didn't talk to me because I wasn't and he didn't need to at that, but he carried himself in the office, and I just thought, he looks like a bit of an idiot. And actually, when I went to Tishman Speyer, when I interviewed with him, so it was one of his colleagues who kind of recommended me and said, you need to get her in to interview, and he was like, okay. And I had the worst interview with him, and he'll say that now as well. He said if he'd had to choose on that interview, I wouldn't have got the job. And it was only because his colleague said, no, she is the right person. She obviously just didn't do a very good interview. And and we laugh about it now. But so he was my boss through that job and for the rest of my time at Tishman Speyer, and is actually now my boss at BGO.
So what went wrong in that interview?
I'm not very good at interviews. that I know anyway. But it just he asked me some challenging questions,
Right.
which probably weren't that challenging, but I think I thought he was really important in my head. So I built
Yes,
him up
yeah,
to be this
yeah.
massive scary person.
Yeah.
Which he isn't. And I got my words twisted and didn't come across very well.
Yeah. And so how did he change your perception of him, or how did your perception change?
I think just the more that we worked together, he then realised I was capable and
Yeah.
not an imbecile, as I came across. And I realised that actually he has a persona, and he did at that time, and he almost needed it with some of the people he was dealing with at Goldman's. But he's not like that at all in terms of arrogant and we actually have a very similar work ethic and way of working. So I think we realised that quite quickly, that if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Same with him. And he has been by far my biggest mentor through the last, we've been together 12 years in terms of a career.
Wow.
My biggest cheerleader in terms of supporting me, but also the person I can go to if I'm like, I'm not quite sure. Someone said this, but I'm not sure if this is right, or what would you do? But he's now, a long time ago, also happy for me to like make my own decisions and trust me enough to just let me get on with it. And that's really important to me.
So you finished the Goldman Sachs project. Did you move on after that, or
not straight away? No, I was then at Tishman Speyer for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
We had our own developments during that time at Goldman, so we had some projects in London that we were developing as our own developments, not with Goldman's. So we were doing that and finishing those. And it was funny because when Alexander told me he was leaving, I cried, but two, I also said, this can't be the end. Like we're such a good team. Like we need to work together. And he was like, absolutely. And we agreed we'd have a code word, and that when the time was right for wherever he was going to, and we thought it was right I was ready to move, because I didn't feel like I'd finished at Tishman. I needed to do some more time without him there.
Yes.
And when he was able to potentially find me a role wherever he was going to, we would use the code word and see if we could get something agreed. And that's what happened when I joined BGO.
Are we allowed to know what the code word was?
It was monkey. Really strangely. I just called him one day and said, we need to talk about the monkey. And he was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And that was it. Yeah.
So did he go straight to BGO?
He did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where I joined him.
Okay. And what was the job offer on the table from BGO?
So that was at the start of when the project I mentioned at the start of this, 105 Victoria Street, was due to be hitting site in the next year or so. And the positive for me from that move, in terms of why it was a must, is I'd spent a long time obviously at Goldman's. Great project, but I was very much delivering what Goldman's wanted. Yeah. So that kind of you referenced kind of did its itch the scratch. No, what was the saying?
Scratch the itch.
Scratch the itch. That's it. It did in the sense of being able to deliver, but not in terms of it being my own design or creations, whatever. And at Tishman, again, there was quite a hierarchical decision process around kind of most of the developments, and highly involved, but it wasn't as kind of involved as I would want it to be. And at BGO, it's very different. Like we have full autonomy to kind of do what we think is right for the developments we're working on. There's not someone, although we have to get business plans signed off, etc., that we very much are the decision makers for what the buildings look like, how they operate, who we use. And that was by far the biggest draw I had for the move to BGO.
Okay. And just explain to us, BGO are building these developments for themselves or for other people? What's the financial? How does it
Our
work
team,
financially?
the fund that we are working at BGO, we do both. We have done development management roles for other clients, but the majority of what we do is our own investment with co-investment as well. Okay. But it's our own projects.
Okay, great. What would you say to someone being told they're not ready for the next step?
Oh, great question. And a funny one, because when I handed in my resignation at Mace, the words, and I won't say the director's name, but the one of the board directors at the time said to me, "Don't run before you can walk." And I remember leaving feeling a bit panicked because I was like, "Oh, is that what I'm doing? Am I about to join a developer, and I haven't done that before? Like, should I stick with Mace?" But I knew in my heart it was the right decision.
Yeah.
And if anything, I saw it as the challenge. So I think if someone asked me that, I would say you've got to go with your gut as to.
Mm. Why do you think he said that to you?
Looking back now, I think he didn't want to lose me.
Okay. So
I think it was he knew that I was a good person to have within the team, and it was probably just a bit of a job for him to then have to find someone to do what I was doing. So I don't think it was necessarily personal.
yeah.
Looking back at the time, and quite quickly after that, he not retracted the statement, but realised that it was probably not a fair thing to say.
Yeah. It's strange how those little things stay with you, though, isn't
Yeah,
it? Those
yeah.
things that people say I don't know whether maybe he even forgot he said it, but it sticks with you, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. And especially at the time, we were in like a windowless room in Barclays offices, because that's where I was working at the time. And I told him I wanted to have a chat with him, and he said, oh, and I think he knew. And I can literally see him sitting there saying those words. And it's like you said, it's one of those memories from my career that I will, because I kind of look back and funnily enough, the same person has now spoken to me about kind of getting work with us. So it's a funny old world when you actually link back to, you don't know who you're going to come across again.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't burn your bridges.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Looking back now, what did that moment teach you about trusting yourself?
um, a lot, because I think that I knew, as I said, that it was the right decision. And I knew it was going to be a big step for me. I knew it was going to be a challenge, but I wanted to progress my career. I wanted to do new things. So um, I, I, I I think quite a lot of the way, even with when I was in Bognor Regis and got thrown in the deep end there, I trusted myself that I've said I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it.
Mm.
Um, so I think I've done that multiple times, probably through my career, and trusted kind of my gut as to what I should be doing.
Are you good at asking for help?
Probably better than I used to be. I think I had a belief at one point that I should know more than I did. And I've learned very quickly that you can't possibly know everything. And that it's okay to ask questions. And it's one of the things I tell a lot of my mentees, like, if you don't understand something, don't pretend you do. Either just say, I'll take that way, or if you don't feel comfortable enough, but just don't try and lie or
Don't
pretend.
blag it. Don't try and blag
Because
it.
it will backfire at some point. And it's happened. I think everyone's probably done that at some point. And that's what I try not to do. But that's usually the guidance I give other people, of not trying to pretend you know more than you do.
Yeah. So we're both mentors on the Circle partnership.
Yes.
Tell me about your experience with that and mentoring people.
It's one of those things since the very first time I've done it. I think I've been doing it now for about, not with the that group, but mentoring for over 10 years now, which I remember when someone asked me to be my mentor 10 years ago, and I was like, oh, I feel too young to be a mentor. But actually, it wasn't necessarily. I don't think it's an age thing, it is an experience. And I don't actually think you need to have that much experience. It could be someone even a couple of years younger who just wants some kind of direction, or that voice they can use for guidance when they're trying to make decisions. But my time at the Circle Partnership, the last 4 years, have been incredible in terms of not just me as a mentor, but the network, as I'm sure you have, of people you meet, both mentors and mentees. But being able to feel like I can give something back, and really add to someone else's career, or at least guide them or help them or be the sounding board for questions, gives me kind of pleasure that I'm helping them achieve something. And as I'm sure I've had a couple who maybe not as infused as others in terms of part of the process. My current one is absolutely amazing. She reminds me of herself at her age. She's a go-getter. And yeah, being able to talk to her, and some of the questions she asks, that it is really interesting, the training they're doing compared to what I think what was happening 4 years ago. But some of the questions that are coming out of that as to like, what was your experience when you were younger about females more senior than you? And I said, well, at the time, I don't think there were any females like of that much more
Yeah.
seniority than I was, because actually the directors are all male, and it's really just having that discussion around like, what was your career like at my age
Yeah.
is really interesting. But hopefully for her, but definitely for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. Do you see yourself as a leader?
Um, I struggle with that word, but probably when I think about what I do day to day and what I try to do, yes. But not necessarily. I feel leader's quite like a political word in
I
some.
know. The reason I ask it is because quite a lot of my guests have an issue with the word,
Mm,
but then when you dig into what they actually do, they are definitely leading,
yeah.
but they just don't really like the word, and I'm really interested in it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I've never considered myself as a leader, but when I think about what I do day to day, that is what I'm definitely trying to lead people to make decisions, make
Yeah.
like choices, and um, get to a point. So yeah, absolutely, probably.
Do you have a team that are working with you at BGO, helping you?
Yeah, we're quite a small team, but we've worked together now for 5-6 years, and we all work very similarly. So it's actually good to be with like-minded people, and because it is a smaller group, we have a lot of reliance on each other. To if someone says they're going to do something, you do it. Someone who's got your back, someone who can back up kind of what you're doing. So it works really well. And that's why I suppose I struggle with the word leader, because actually when I think about the people I work closest with, we're all leaders in our own kind of right.
Yeah.
There is obviously a leader because we all have a boss, but he's not the
Yeah.
leader.
But you're leading your project, aren't
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I always think that the role of a project manager is to lead and inspire and, drive, isn't it?
Yeah,
So I think it's one of the characteristics of, you've obviously got to understand your subject, but
mm,
you're in terms of a characteristic, you've got to be willing to lead the way, haven't
yeah,
you?
yeah. No, I fully agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
At the moment, this year is a big one for me in terms of finishing 105 Victoria Street. I think when you put your kind of blood, sweat, and tears into a project like I have, to the point where I was crawling over the floor in one of our spaces the other day, because we just lay in this LED floor, and I was trying to snag it at my hands and knees, because to me it has to be perfect. And so when you're doing that detail, and you've been doing that since, for that project, 4 years or so, the last couple of months you don't want it to fail at that
No,
point.
absolutely.
So next couple of months are really big. We've got other projects which are going to be starting in the next couple of months too, so getting them lined up. Big one for us is this Friday. We have every year we do a charity event on one of our projects, and so this will be the 4th year we've done it. This year we're doing a run, not just a cycle. So I'm leading the runners. So going back to your leader point, I'm actually leading the running group. So we're doing 10.5 kilometres run on Friday, and there's a group doing 105 kilometre cycle, and then we've got a 10.5 walking group. So,
Goodness.
but it's over, probably about 250 people from the project team who all come together
That's
to
amazing.
raise money. And as I said, 4th year.
Who are you raising money for?
All of the local partners for the project. So we don't tend to support big charities. We look at the kind of square mile around each of our sites,
Yeah.
whether that be schools,
Yeah.
organisations, charities, so homeless groups, community centres. There are some schools as well, but it's a whole host of different charities that we raise money. And actually some of them take part, which is really good as well.
Yeah. That's great. Where are you running?
I can't remember where we're starting, but it's definitely along the River Thames, and then we end at the project. So, and we're going to have a big celebration event.
I thought you were going to say we end at the pub.
Well, obviously that will be where we end up in the evening.
Great. You've got a nice saying about preparation. Do you want to talk me through that?
Yeah, it's one of, and it goes back to one of the points you made about key memories from your career. I remember sitting in a training session, I can't remember what year it was, of the grad scheme at Mace, and there was a trainer who said, preparation is 100% success. And I still, even though I don't always have time to do this, I live by that in everything I do. Whether that's making sure I've read an email before I go into a meeting, read the terms before I'm talking about a contract negotiation, like whatever that might be, a presentation prep, I will try and prepare and feel like I'm ready and can handle it, because I think it does born success. You will be more successful if you've gone into something as prepared as you can be.
Yeah.
And I do pass that on to my mentees because I think it's a good thing to live by.
So I told you this before, but I was talking to somebody. It was probably a year ago, and I was saying, I'm going to do this podcast called Places Shapes. I want to speak to really impressive women in the industry, and he said, you need to speak to Emma. She's the girl. What is it about? What do you think he sees in you? I mean, he's a contractor, so seeing it from a different angle. You talked about what your boss saw in you. What do you think the people that you're leading and the project teams you're working with, what do you think they think of you, and why do they like working with you?
It's a really hard question to answer because no one's ever really told. People always give me this feedback that, oh, so-and-so says it's great working with you. And I've never really kind of asked why. So I don't know. I think I know my mind. So I know if I'm looking at something, I'm not, I'll take it away and come back to you in 2 weeks. I know what I want and will make a decision. I don't take fools lightly. I will, if someone says this is how we're doing it, I will challenge until I'm happy that that is the only way it can be done. Or if someone suggests that something can only be done in a certain way, I won't just take someone's word for it. There are certain people who I will, because I've worked with them long enough that I trust them. But I'm 100% always about getting the best, whether that's quality, cost, time, and I will push for that. And I think once people realise that, they appreciate it and understand it and realise that it actually is better for them too. So maybe that's why I'm quite a laid back person, in the sense of I build rapport quite easily with people, and I think that helps. I think I'm quite approachable, which I think in the industry, especially maybe being female in an all male industry, is a good thing. There are juniors in teams I work with who come up to me, and that is one thing I've had people say, that they feel like it's easy to ask me a question or to approach me. So I think that's also another reason. But do
you think you've purposely lent into that side of your personality because it's helped?
Yeah, I don't want, and again, it goes back to probably my experience of clients when I was project management side, that I did see people as they're really scary clients. They're the decision makers, and I don't think I've ever wanted to come across like that.
No.
So I try and, although I know I can be bullish, I try and keep that softer side of me, and make sure that yes, we can be discussing something with quite a lot of tension one moment, but that is the business, and then we can be laughing and joking about something else the next, because ultimately we've all got to work together, and we need to do it in a happy manner.
So if we could go back to the little girl doing her Lego and creating her plan for her cruise ship, wasn't it, or something? How do you link today to that girl doing the Lego?
I think it's part of everything I do day to day. Looking back at the Lego side, it's funny because on 105, the project I've spoken quite a bit about, when we got to the marketing stage of the project a few years ago, and we were looking at what we should do to create the model, which, as you know, in the industry is usually some kind of timber or cardboard creation. We actually commissioned a Lego model of our building. And it's probably been as a side project to the large one, we found someone who, his job is to build Lego models. He's commissioned, his company's called Brick This, absolutely fantastic. And we commissioned him to do a Lego model of our building. And it took him about 6 months. It's about 100,000. It's big, more bricks than any other kind of Lego model that's out there.
Wow.
And it includes every kind of detail that we've got vegetables in our urban farm at the top of the building. It's incredibly detailed, and the even though I didn't build it myself, the calls we had where he was like, should it look like this or should it like that? Because he's trying to represent the
So
design.
what kind of detail is he phoning you and asking you for?
So like for the facade, we've got
Yeah.
like 4 different facade types on the building.
Okay.
So he was the brief was he had to use standard Lego bricks. We didn't make anything from scratch. So he was trying to replicate our facade design in Lego. But obviously the building hadn't been built.
Okay.
So he's trying to do it
So
from
he's working off drawings
the
and
Revit
visuals
model and drawings and CGIs.
Yeah.
But the way you obviously put Lego can look very different depending on what you do. So he was doing like mini mock-ups of different facades. I could do it like this bit could be clear, this could be solid. And we were doing calls with him in his workshop with all this Lego behind him. And he was showing me these little pieces of Lego going, do you like this one or this one? This one or this one? Like the terrace balustrade, all of the entrance doors.
That's ridiculous. So basically you've done this project twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Once in
I've
Lego.
built it in Lego, not myself, but through design. And yeah, the main thing.
Oh, that's going to be a great story, isn't it, for the building?
Yeah. And the idea of that model is that we've now got something that instead of getting thrown away at the end of the project, which is usually what happens with the timber ones after a couple of years of collecting dust, is that the idea is that after maybe a year on site, we'll dismantle it and then give all of the bricks to local children.
Amazing.
So that it actually then has a
nice.
secondary purpose, which goes back to like that full loop with my starting life of playing with Lego.
Yeah. Whose idea was it to do the Lego?
I can't remember. I remember we had a discussion around it. It was definitely one of 3 people, but I can't remember who actually said, why don't we do Lego? Yeah, who's taken the glory. But as soon as we went onto it, it was like, yeah, that's it. Let's do it.
Brilliant. And what about the colour? Is it in...
No, it's in the colours, and that was part of the decision. He was having to order bricks, and because he's going by seat, like on this video, going this colour or this colour, this colour.
Oh wow! Okay.
And we were having to hold up our project samples, like of our terracotta.
Okay,
and
so
he was trying to match the Lego bricks with with our project samples. So it went to a very intricate level.
Do you still Lego in your spare time? Or?
Yes, 100%.
Do you?
I think any adult who says that they don't try and find or don't have some interaction with Lego, whether it's kind of when you're with friends or kids or whatever, and there's some kind of Lego there, I think that happens more commonly than people would say. But yeah, I still love it.
What are the benefits of Lego?
I think that for me, it was you can always build to the crib sheet that you get in the pack. But for me, it was about being able to build something, take it apart, try again, amend something, put 2 sets together. I think it's the flexibility and creativity it brings in terms of what you can actually make.
So is that something you do to relax, Lego now, is it?
No, I mean, I joke that I do it. It's more if I've got friends around and they've got kids, I'll be like, let's get out the Lego.
Oh, okay, fine. Any excuse.
Yes. I don't sit on my own and do it, but I think it's still a really nice way to interact with kids and even just to switch your mind off from kind of the more onerous jobs that it distracts from.
Yeah. So, as you know, Emma, the podcast is called Places She Shapes. So I have some shaping moments questions around the podcast title. So the first one is places. So you're in a room with everyone you've ever met, dead or alive, excluding your immediate family. Who would you look for first?
Probably one of my best friends. I mean, I mentioned I've got a very close group of friends who are there from day one of secondary school. It would definitely be by far one of them. Yeah, they will always be there with a big smile on. So,
that's nice. Yeah. And who's the woman you turn to for advice and why?
Probably my sister.
What does she do?
She's a PA within the recruitment industry. So very different jobs, different career paths as well. But she's been really successful in her own right in terms of what she's achieved, and is always quite, I think being a sister means that you get an unfiltered advice. So probably her and some of my closest friends.
Great. And the final one, how would you shape your ideal day?
Oh, work day or?
You can choose.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't choose to work, so that's number one done. Not that I don't like my job, but if it's my ideal day, it would definitely include probably getting on a plane somewhere hot and sunny, with a glass of champagne in my hand. Ideally, if it was an ideal day, it would be with my other half and all my friends, and we'd be going somewhere nice where there's good food, good wine, nice sunny, just chill, maybe a bit of sightseeing. But yeah, that would be an ideal day for me.
Great. Sounds like a lovely day. Emma, you've been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, follow Places She Shapes wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss the rest of season 3.